The sole source of water for close to 400,000 people, and every homeowner in Spokane County pays to help maintain its quality. So is it working? Well, here to talk about that, Ty Wick, the manager of the Spokane Water District number 3, and Susan McGeorge from Whitworth Water District. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
Let's just start with, I was telling you a funny little story off the top about how when I came here 12 years ago, I had no idea what an aquifer is, and I don't think most of us understand its depth, where it is, how close it is to the surface. Explain to me the aquifer.
Well, the aquifer is basically a layer of rocks that's underground that the water flows through, and as it flows through, we drill wells and to tap into that source of water and provide it to all the customers.
This aquifer in this area, though, the Spokane Rathdrum one, is fairly unique, is it not?
Yes. You have to envision a big giant bathtub for a Spokane aquifer, and it covers a good part of Montana, Idaho, and into Washington. And within this big bathtub there are layers of sand and gravel and rock and lots of water, enough that it can support a population. Not all bathtubs have the right kind of rock structure within it. So it is unique that way. The time of travel of the water is also very unique.
By that you mean?
If you take the river and you go to the Idaho border and come to the downtown area of Spokane, it takes about 5 hours for water to travel from there to downtown. The aquifer, the same distance, takes about 7 years. So very, very slow moving travel.
Now you brought with you a videotape that kind of shows, it's a well drilling in Whitworth Water District,
Yes.
as I understand. And if we roll it, I think we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to see is how close the water really is to the surface. Can you kind of describe what we're seeing?
As they start to drill, and the rig will show that it hits water at approximately 100 feet below the surface. In some areas of the Spokane area, that's the average distance to a well. For Whitworth, we have to drill considerably further down to actually reach the water that we can use for drinking.
So now what is
water.
this? Is that an actual well?
This is an actual well being drilled.
And what am I seeing here? You're looking, this is how far we're going as we look for the water?
This is a camera going down the well. You can see it's in the water and moving through the water, and the numbers on the screen is the distance from the top of the ground.
When you see 135 or 121, that is pretty shallow, isn't it?
Yes, and it can even be shallower. There are wells that are only as little as 20 feet deep to the top, from the ground to the top of the water. So that's bathtub full of rocks. Is not only can the water flow through the bathtub, from the top of the bathtub down to the water, it can flow it just as easily.
So then water quality must be a huge concern. We've got a huge amount of this county is septic tanks. We've got other businesses. What are you doing? How is this joint board of
The joint board is actually was designed originally to do a wellhead protection program that was mandated by the state, and it's now become a proactive education type of organization to try and reach the customers and the residents of Spokane, business people of Spokane, to teach them about how to store chemicals, how to dispose of chemicals that could contaminate the wells and their own drinking water, and to make it an educational endeavor rather than just the wellhead protection.
Trying to remind people all the time to think about their actions, what they might do, dumping something on the ground that could be disposed of at a transfer station, those kind of things, everyday things that they can do, not do, to keep the drinking water safe.
Now, Ty, you talk a little bit about everyday things, but of course, as a country, we're facing something that is far from everyday, which is fears of contamination. Can you just briefly touch on how, at the water district level, you're protecting the water quality, be it from a terrorist attack, potentially, or from anything else, from reaching my home?
Well, just normally, we're taking samples weekly and on a regular basis to test the water and make sure it's good. And generally, we have plans in place, emergency plans, to enact if we have problems, and also plans to notify the people if there is a problem, make them aware of that. So we feel we're pretty well prepared. We deal with vandalism and those kind of things all the time, and so we have the plans available to deal with the situation.
What do the water tests show over the long haul? Are you seeing a degradation in the quality of water in the aquifer?
Each water purveyor's water could be a little bit different because of the circumstances of how deep their wells are. Whitworth has seen no degradation. We are finding, however, reports of nitrates being a little bit higher in one of the areas where we are serving. And that's a result of, I believe, a direct result to the septic systems in the area.
And as you mentioned, the septic tanks, as those are being replaced with the sewers, particularly in the valley, we've seen wells where the quality's actually improved. The nitrate level's actually gone down after the sewers have gone in, so it's definitely made an impact.
But sewering is never going to be as fast as you need it to be, is it?
No. The county in Whitworth's area is responsible for sewering, and they've done a tremendous job in the last 10 years of catching up and actually moving forward faster than they ever anticipated. But the area that we're seeing the problem is more remote, and I have not heard of even plans to sewer that area yet by the county.
And the county is working to improve that and do faster. They're hoping to have everything sewered within 12 years, so it is coming.
Do we drink that water straight out of the aquifer, or is it treated as it reaches the water districts?
That varies again by district. At Whitworth, you drink it just as you get it from the ground. Other areas, they have some different properties in their water, a little bit different makeup, and some will have some chlorine in it. None of them are very heavily treated with anything.
The water isn't treated for anything, but it is disinfected to protect against bacteria, and some systems might have older pipes, and so some districts may chlorinate and others may not, but a majority is just straight out of the aquifer.
Now, say your tests did show something, be it a bacteria or some sort of contamination. What are the next steps?
Well, depending on what type of bacteria, it kind of determines there can be a non-acute problem or an acute problem. An acute problem would be something that got in from a warm-blooded animal and contaminated. We had a problem a couple of years ago in Millwood where a bird got in the reservoir. That kind of is immediate. I mean, you have to boil water, you have to get the word out, let people know there's a contaminant.
A bird in the reservoir caused that kind of problem?
Right. And so that's an immediate response. If it's a non-acute, where you just have what they call a coliform organism, that is a common organism. It just says that there could be a bad organism and then it could cause people to get sick. And that's just a notification within 14 days that you had an incident and what steps you took to correct a problem if you found a problem, and just have to notify the people and let them know what's going on.
So when your water districts do these weekly tests, you're looking for nitrates, chloroform, what is the list of things? Can you tell me?
Yes, sorry, bacteriological, inorganic chemical, synthetic organic, volatile organic chemicals, lead and copper, radionuclides. There's a huge, huge list of things we test for. And it's around the clock. It never stops. It's one of our major expenses is our water testing.
Well, I imagine.
Yeah.
Let's just touch on briefly businesses over the aquifer, especially in some of those areas where you've got a 20-foot cap to it. How are you educating businesses? Are businesses being taxed more? I mean, would you like to see them taxed more?
No.
What are you doing to get businesses on the bandwagon of protecting?
Through the Aquifer Joint Board, we have a proactive business committee that's been working this year with Department of Ecology on a new program that seems to be working very well. Department of Ecology has interns going out and making site visitations to some of these businesses that are within 500 feet of a well, and they're offering to help them with suggestions on safe storage and handling of their chemicals, as well as disposal of their chemicals, to make sure that they are not going into the ground, that they are actually being taken to the stations or the areas where they need to be taken for proper disposal.
Ecology staff are very well trained and can even suggest alternate methods that might even save the company money, that they might not have to use that type of chemical to get the same result.
Does Spokane kind of face, this is a unique aquifer, is that a unique problem to us?
It is fairly unique. This aquifer is very susceptible to contamination. It's a great aquifer. The water moves fairly quickly for an aquifer, and it's a one-in-a-kind resource, and we really want to protect it. The other thing is, if it does get contaminated, it's almost impossible to clean up.
Well, that's food for thought. Thank you both very much for joining us. I appreciate your time. That is it for now. I'm Cindy Corris, and I'll see you next week right here on Spokane This Week.
Do you have a comment or suggestion for Spokane This Week? Send us your thoughts in a letter or email to the following address: Spokane This Week, KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington 99223.